Okay. Major prophecy. The Lord just spoke to me last night in a dream. And this is the dream. I looked up and I saw coming down from the clouds like it was a castle. Huge castle. And this castle had like a chimney, like a silo sitting in like front of the castle. And out of the chimney there was a fire coming out that was hot. It was really hot. From the top. As a matter of fact, the first thing I saw in the dream coming through the clouds was the fire. I was outside talking to somebody, and can you pause that, babe, or turn it down or something? And I looked up and I saw this fire, and I even said in the dream, I said that I feel the heat on my face. And then to the clouds came the top of the chimney, like silo type thing, and was kind of reminds me of the furnace that the Hebrew boys were thrown into, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And that was in the day of Daniel, by the way. And it was like a kingdom, and it covered most of the sky. I mean, it was like huge. It was big as the cloud that it was on. Huge thing. And there was like a building off to one side of it that looked to be a part of the same castle. Okay. So, and then it just proceeded to come down. It came right down. It sat right on the ground, and I could see inside there were like angels moving around, and they looked like men. And I knew, even in the dream, I knew this was from the Lord, something from the Lord coming down out of heaven. And there was men walking around. I was afraid to go inside because, with the Lord you got to be respectful to the Lord. So this one lady, she looked to be about 20 years old. She wasn't really a lady. She wasn't really a young girl, but she was like between, And she had like long black hair. And she just walks right up inside of this one building that some of the angels were in. And as they were coming down, I noticed there was like one standing on top, looking out over, And then when they got down to the ground, there was a bunch inside this one building. Now inside this one building that was off to the side, it was like all war-torn and stuff on the inside. Looked like there had been a battle go on inside of there. Everything, there was just, nothing was in place. It looked like some of the rafters had been pulled out of the wall. And this was a stone building. And I don't know where the rafters came from, or not the rafters, but the sidewalls. But anyhow, I got close to one. I wanted to know that this was the Lord and what He wanted. So I came up close to one, and I said to him, I said, "What does the Lord want?" And there was some guy behind me had an air compressor going. And I said to the one other fellow there, I said, "Go turn that down." So, and he went over and he turned it off. And I spoke to this angel-like fellow again. And I says, "What does the Lord want?" And he spoke really low. And I couldn't hear what he said. And I asked him again, I says, "What?" I said, what does the Lord want?" And he said, "The indignation." The indignation. Now, everybody that knows that's been studying the Bible for more than a year knows what the indignation is. And of course it makes sense, because inside the building he was in was destruction inside the building. And the indignation, for you who don't know what that is in the day of Daniel, it's a prophecy of the Antichrist. Now it's not just a prophecy of the Antichrist, but is a prophecy of the saints taking over the world. It's a prophecy of the saints taking over the world. And possess it. The Bible says, and shall possess it forever and ever and ever. Now Daniel's indignation is a time of completion. The rapture is supposed to happen in the midst of this. A great battle is going to go on between the Antichrist. Ezekiel 38 and 39 is going to take place during this time. There's just a lot of bad things, but something really good is going to come out of it. Now what I want to read you here is the angel's interpretation to Daniel. The angel Gabriel's interpretation to Daniel about what his dream meant. Because when Daniel writes down his dream, he writes it down in sections. It's like he made notes about it, and he would say, okay, now this is how it happened totally, but I'm going to get into a little more detail, and he writes it down again. Then he writes it down again after that. It's like written down like 3 times, in one in greater detail than the other, in chapter 7, the last part of chapter 7. But in Daniel chapter 8, go down about verse 15, this is where the angel interprets the dream that Daniel had, and this is what it says. And it came to pass, in verse 15, I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning. And just like I did in the dream, I said, hey, what's the Lord want? You know, this is what, you know, I'm like a Moses kind of a guy. I need to hear it. You know, I need to speak and hear face to face. God knows I'm a simple man. You know, this is why He chose me, because you know, there's a lot of people out there a lot smarter than me, and God picked somebody simple so that the message could not be misinterpreted or whatever. You know, God knows I'm going to give it just like I hear it. Okay, and then behold, there stood before me an appearance of a man, just like in that castle, you know. So Gabriel does not have wings. They always paint him with wings, but he don't have wings. It's an appearance of a man, just like in the dream. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, U-L-A-I, Ulai. I guess that's a river, right? Which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell on my face. But he said to me, understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall the vision be. At the time of the end shall this vision be. This vision is for the last days of now. This is what he's talking about. And the Lord was telling me last night, the Lord wants to bring Daniel's indignation. What I'm getting ready to read you, God is bringing it. God has a deep desire to bring this. And even so, everything that's going on with Syria right now and everything that surrounds that, you go to Isaiah 17 and read it. God is going to use Syria to pull this thing out, to make this thing happen. Verse 18. Now as he was speaking to me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground. But he touched me and set me up. And he said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation. There's the word that I heard out of the angel last night, out of the mouth of that angel last night. He said it twice, the indignation. The indignation. The Lord is wanting to bring the indignation. For at the time appointed the end shall be. This is it. This is the time appointed. Now is the time appointed for the indignation. And if you go back and look at my videos, you'll find where the Lord has spoke to me about 3 other times about bringing the Antichrist. Once He said the Antichrist is going to come from the right side, from the side of the good. And a couple of other times He's pointed out that this is the time, the moon, about the moon, the blood moon. The blood moon, this sign that we had, everybody was looking for, didn't see anything, was because this is the blood moon indicated this right here, what we're talking about, the indignation. That's what that blood moon was all about. Okay? The time of the Antichrist. This is it. Okay, now I want to just like close my mouth and stop trying to interpret, but I want to tell you some things, okay? Right here, or I'm going to let the angel tell you some things, okay? That he wrote down, that Daniel wrote down. Okay, verse 19, he said, Behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation, for at the time appointed shall the end be. Now I'm reading this in the King James because the King James is more accurate interpretation. The King James language is a more accurate language. If you do a study on that, you'll find out I'm telling you the exact truth. Verse 20, The ram which thou sawest, having 2 horns, are the king of Media and Persia. Media and Persia. To my understanding, that is Russia and Iran. Okay. And verse 21, And the rough goat is the king of Garcia. Garcia is Greece. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now that being broken, the horn was broken, whereas 4 stood up for it. 4 kingdoms, the angel was saying, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. That is the power of the first king. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. Transgressors come to the full time? Yeah, we're there. Or as the Lord was saying, in the days, as it were, in the day of Sodom and Gomorrah, or as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the day of the coming of the Son of Man. And this is what he was pointing to, when the transgressors are come to full. If you talk to people, you go on YouTube and talk to people, man, you will see that, listen, we are in the day of the transgressor. Verse 24, And his power shall be mighty. This one that shall stand up, his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. It's going to be under the power of the devil, and you can see that later. You can read that. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper, and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. He shall wonderfully destroy. He'll be your best friend. He'll be your favorite uncle. He'll be so compassionate to you while he's having the leader of his army run around and kill your family. He shall destroy wonderfully. His words will be like honey dripping from his mouth. Verse 24. His power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. Okay, I just read that. And he shall destroy wonderfully. Alright, verse 25. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. He shall magnify himself in his heart. I'm not going to make any predictions of who that's talking about. Okay? We all know who this indicates. He shall magnify himself in his heart. I'm not going to say that. And by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princesses, that is Jesus. But he shall be broken without hand. Conceited. This is a conceited fella. He is all about himself. And this is the time. This is what I'm talking about. God is bringing this. 2 verses left. And the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true. Wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days. And I, Daniel, fainted and was sick certain days. After I rose and did serve the king, done the king's business, and I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it. You know, if I weren't used to having these dreams like I had last night, man, this dream would have really worried me. This was an astonishing dream. It came straight down from heaven. You should have saw this. Oh my lands. It was a heavenly vision. It was as though I was standing before God and looking up on His throne. I was awestruck at what God was getting ready to do. And I heard one word. It said indignation. And God is getting ready right now through all that He's doing with Syria and Russia, Iran, Turkey. Turkey's going to be a major part of what brings Isaiah 17. The Lord is getting ready to return. All these things I have just told you, we should be looking seriously at, because this is a part of every man's future. What I have just told you, this is coming. God is bringing this. It's a part of your future. It's a part of my future. And God is getting ready to wrap things up. It's not going to be long, folks, till Jesus comes back. Listen, if you don't know the Lord, get to know Him. Commit your heart to Him, just like the thief on the cross who decided to take the side of Jesus that day. That's what you have to do. Because just like Pastor Bob says, when you take that last breath, it's a done deal. You don't have any more chances after that. And the devil's going to take a lot of people out. During this time, there's going to be roughly, from as much as I understand, during this whole time, there's going to be like 2.5 billion people taken off this earth. And we need to get ready, folks, because the Lord really is coming soon. He says that He will do nothing. Amos 3:7, He will do nothing unless He tells His people through His prophets. Listen, there's all kind of stuff, like not just me. There's all kinds of people on here. The Lord is speaking to His prophets right now. God has a lot of prophets. He's speaking to us today. He's getting ready to return. What you see going on all around you, listen, open your eyes. Don't be blind. Open your eyes and see what the Spirit is saying to the church today. All right, God bless you. Thank you for joining. We'll see you again next time. Another great message, Cross in the Middle Ministry.